A lot of people came early. I'll just maybe start in 2 minutes. Are on time. So, assalamu alaikum and good evening, everyone. My name is Fatma. I'm a data and AI solution architect here at Microsoft. And I also work with Fateh and Cher, he's joining us shortly, and Sarmad. We lead the Azure Qatar community. And the Azure Qatar community is all about, it's community, right? So it's folks who are interested in talking about Azure, tech, different topics. We've been running it for around a year now. And it's great to see, like today is actually the start of a new fiscal year. So happy new year for those who are just started their financial year. We're looking forward to this next year. And we were just reflecting on what we've done this past year, seeing the community grow, the variety and diversity in topics. And we look forward to the next year as well. And if you are someone who has an idea of the topic you want to talk about, or you want to help us in organizing or anything, just feel free to connect with us. And we also have a new, like I'm calling out Hamza. So Hamza is also part of our organizing team as well. He's a Microsoft Learn student ambassador. So we're happy to have fresh talent also join us. Do you want to say anything, Hamza?
Okay. I'm Microsoft Learn student ambassador for almost 2 years from now. And recently joined the organizer group, but on my first day I'm a little bit.
No, don't worry, don't miss much. We just started. Great. Happy to have you on board. Okay, so let's just get into it. For those of you who it's your first time and you're not part of the LinkedIn or WhatsApp group, just scan this QR code. It will take you there. WhatsApp is where we are most giving people updates, and LinkedIn is also another platform for those who want to, even like in the LinkedIn group, if you have something you want to post or something you want to share, feel free to do that. Use that platform as well. We have around more than 300 folks, I think even more. There's a lot of people that are, I think I need to approve their requests or something. I think one of the posts went viral or something. So we're join that community. For those who signed up for the talk last week, unfortunately, we had to cancel it, as you know, with everything that happened last week. But we're still going to have it next week, inshallah, the one that talk about Dynamics 365. So there were some people asking, do you need to re-register? You don't need to re-register. We're just going to reopen the link for those who want to change. Maybe they want to cancel to give chance for other people. Okay. And just a job shout out. So for those of you who don't know this segment, it's just we notice we talk to a lot of people here in the community. We come on in. Are they scared? Okay. We talk to a lot of people here in the community, and we know that there's a lot of people looking for talent, and there's also a lot of people that are really talented as well. So we want to use this platform to connect folks like that. So for anyone, we give a chance for anyone who wants to, if you're hiring, you can just shout it out, or either you can let us know beforehand and we can talk on your behalf, or we just give you ad hoc a platform to just mention if you're hiring. And also the other end as well, if you're someone who is looking for something, and use this platform to sell yourself. There's no shame and talking about that. This is how you grow and learn. And so I'm giving this platform for anyone who wants to talk about that. I do have some so here at Microsoft, we are hiring right now for a junior solution engineer, so it's more of a pre-sales engineer role. So if you're interested in that, I think the application will. It's just a immediate hire, so it's probably going to go out soon. And then we're going to hire soon again as well. Our team is growing, especially in the AI infra apps space. And we also have an internship position as well. It's mostly for locals, but if you're not a local, don't be shy to apply. You can still at least get a chance for it. And there's also another up and coming startup called Raya.ai. It's by some of our colleagues who worked at Microsoft. They're starting everything related to AI agents, and they're actively hiring right now. So we posted about it in the chat. If you're interested, reach out to myself or Fateh, and then we can connect you to or refer you to those folks. And then I want to give this platform for anyone. So I know I'm calling you out, Saif. So Saif, do you want to talk about yourself, Saif?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, you can just stand up.
Guys, I'm Saif, co-founder of Naiman. It's a wellness platform. We're connecting service providers here who shares wellness services like physical therapy, all the way to getting a haircut. We're getting a platform here in Qatar for all Windows services to share their services and also people to see what these Windows providers offer. So we're currently onboarding really fast. We have a lot of interested Windows providers, and we're looking for a Flutter developer to help us scale our features fast. So if anyone is interested, feel free to reach out, and we can talk afterwards. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's on its way. Also, just giving a chance for anyone else that wants to talk or say anything. Okay, good. Then let's just jump into it. Today we have a very interesting topic. We have Musa here. Should I call Mohammad Musa or just Musa?
Fine, Mom.
Mohammad Musa. Okay, so he's going to talk everything related to Azure API Management, or as we call it, APIM. Raise your hand if you've heard of this before, APIM. All right, so we got like a diverse audience, but Fretnut, you're in safe hands. He's going to walk you over it. I was told there's going to be some demos as well, so I'm looking forward to that. And then, yeah, so Musa is a seasoned solution engineer, has been working in the apps, DevOps space. And how long have you been in the field now? Like more than 8 years now? Yeah. So he's worked with a lot of like large scale customers here in Qatar in the public sector and the private sector. So he has a lot of experience in this area, and we look forward to see what you're going to tell us. And also, as usual, we have mugs that we're gonna give to folks, and the key is to just answer Musa's questions. So just pay attention to what he's gonna say, and then the questions are gonna be related to that, and then you're gonna walk away today with Microsoft mug. So yeah, on to you, Musa.
Thank you so much, Fatma.
You can, I think, just switch screen,
Yeah.
share.
Screen.
And if in the meantime, if anyone has any questions or anything, or we can just take it later, Khalas, you're on.
This session is on Azure API Management.
Does it, if it doesn't work, I can stop. Do you want to, we have a mic if you want to use a mic, or do you want to just?
I think it's fine.
Mike is, I think, better. I can't hear it.
You can't hear me?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. That's fine, I can send it. Okay.
Thank you so much. So this is the agenda of today's session. First, I will introduce myself, then I will talk about Azure API Management, what API Management is, and what are the key components of Azure API Management, like what are policies, how we can use policies in Azure API Management, and how we can use Copilot to write and customize our policies. Then what are products in API Management, what are subscriptions, how we can manage users, groups, how we can publish our APIs and we can deliver it to the developers using developer portal, and how we can monitor our APIs, how we can monitor the usage of our APIs. So I will go through each of these things, but my main focus would be on a hands-on lab. So I have prepared a lab on Azure. So I will walk you through all the things in detail over there. Before I move forward, I would like to introduce myself. So as Fatma mentioned, I'm working as a senior cloud consultant. So currently I'm working at Malumatia. Malumatia, we are providing cloud services to customers in Qatar. We deliver infrastructure, networking, app innovation, data and AI services to public and private sectors in Qatar. So before I move forward, I would like to know about API management from you guys. So when you listen to this term APIs or API management, what comes into your mind? Like, what is the first thing? What is this service about? Anyone?
APIs all the way to tracking the usage. It starts from like developing the API itself all the way to like tracking the usage, security as well included in all of that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And MCP servers as well, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, from my knowledge, what I know is that we're using API to connect, for example, two different solutions with each other. So, and what I know is that the two solutions have to have like open API in order to connect with each other. So this is my background.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? So exactly, yeah, as you guys mentioned, we use Azure API Management. So Azure API Management is a platform provided by Microsoft Azure, which provides us capabilities to configure our APIs, to perform all management-related tasks related to our APIs. We can have APIs hosted on Azure. We can have APIs hosted on on-prem environment. We can also have APIs hosted on any other cloud. So wherever we have our APIs hosted anywhere in the world, we can use Azure API Management, and we can configure those APIs over here at Azure API Management. Now, with the help of Azure API Management, we have a lot of capabilities to manage our APIs. We can write advanced level policies to secure our APIs. We have control to manage the request which is going towards our backend APIs. We can even customize the response which is coming back from the APIs to the end users. We have the capability of creating customized dashboards which can be used by the developers to consume our APIs. So for example, if I am an API developer, I configure my APIs at API management, and now I want to deliver those APIs to any other customer or to any other developer so that they can consume those APIs with their applications or they can use them. So for that, I can use products, I can publish them, and I can we have a developer portal where the developers can go and they can customize the APIs. So basically how API management works, that normally whenever a user wants to access API, we directly send traffic request to the API, and we take response back from our APIs. For example, there's a user and there's a function app. I have my API deployed over there. I'm writing the code on Visual Studio Code, and I'm deploying it on our function app. And I have a Cosmos DB where I'm storing my records. Now, by putting this layer of Azure API management in between the user and the function, it could be a user or it could be any application which is calling my APIs. So by putting this API management layer, now I can do a lot of things, a lot of management related tasks on my API management. I don't have to do code level changes. Like for example, if I have to provide any kind of authentication like auth authentication or JWT authentication, if for example, I want to control the rate limiting, I want that only a user can make 10 calls in 1 minute. So instead of doing these things at
You can carry on. I'll get you another one.
Yeah. So instead of doing these things at the code level, I have an ability on Azure API Management to do all these related tasks. So how these things happen, that in Azure API Management, we have a gateway, which is like the central plane of the API management, which is controlling all the tasks which are being performed on the API. So whenever a request is going towards the backend APIs, it passes through the gateway. Gateway checks the policies and all the operations which I've configured for that API or for a set of APIs. Similarly, when I'm getting the response from the APIs, so the response passes from the gateway, and gateway can even change the response based on the policies which we have configured. So policies, what are policies? So policies are basically a set of instructions which we use at different layers. We can use policies on a single API level. We can use policy on a set of API level. We can use policy on a product level. So policies are instructions which we want to implement before our request goes to the backend APIs, or when we are taking back the response from the APIs and delivering to the user. The policies could be of different type. We can have like rate limiting. We can even, when we are getting back the response, we can set specific headers in the policies. We can even do IP filtering. Like for example, if I want my API should be accessible from certain IP addresses or from certain address ranges, so I can configure a policy and I can mention the address ranges. So only from those certain address ranges, my APIs will be configured. Now, policies we can configure through Azure portal. We can do it through user interface. We have snippets. We can use policies from there. And from Azure portal, we have a capability of using Copilot. So in Azure portal, we can go and through Copilot, I can tell, okay, I need a policy which can, for a rate limiting, in 1 minute, only 30 requests should be sent on my API. So for that, Copilot is going to generate that policy for me. And even though Copilot, I can integrate with my Visual Studio. I have a Visual Studio. I will show you that in the lab, how it works. And from there, I will tell Copilot that, okay, I need this certain policy, because these things help us when we have a huge environment, when we have done a lot of customization, when we are doing a lot of policies, we are doing customization. So sometimes we might make any error in the syntax, or we might don't know what is the actual value which we have to pass in that certain policy. So for that, Copilot can make our work very easy and can generate the whole policy and can integrate that with our API as well. So now when we have multiple APIs configured at API management, suppose we have some APIs which are used for a banking purpose, and we have a set of APIs which are used for a medical purpose, which is being consumed by a hospital. Now, I want that the APIs which I've developed and configured for the banking users, they should only be given to the specific users which are related to the bank. And I have some APIs which are related to the medical system, and those a set of APIs should be grouped and should be delivered to the right users. So for that, in API management, I have a concept of creating products. So I can group similar type of APIs into a product, and then I can publish that product to the users, to the end users. So the users who will have access to the banking product will see all the APIs which are part of that product. Now the concepts come of subscriptions. Now, for example, I have an API and I have published it and some users are using it. Now I want that whenever a request is made to my APIs, whenever the users are consuming the APIs, they should put some kind of a key, subscription key, just for authentication, because I want to restrict the access. I don't want that anyone with access to the URL of the API management should be able to access my APIs. I want to restrict this. So with that, we have a capability of setting up subscription keys. We can have 2 subscription keys and we can change them whenever we want. We can configure the subscription keys with the API. So whenever we are making a call to the API, we can restrict the end user to put the subscription key so that we can provide a layer of restriction over there. Any questions till now? Anyone?
Also, one question on the architecture that you showed. If you go to the APIs,
yes,
diagram in here. So I have one question to clarify. No, go back to the diagram, please.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, here. So a lot of time the database or the services, they provide their own REST APIs already.
Yes.
So in that case, like, is the function app or like a compute still needed, or it can be directly imported there as well?
We can import it, but sometimes we use function app not only for importing the data to the API management. Sometimes we are processing something. For example, I'm fetching some data from the database and I want to perform some operations on that. And then it's like just a generic diagram. And after performing those operations to the function app doing that API, I want to publish that. So instead of this function app or database, you can put a Kubernetes cluster, you can have an app service, an on-prem environment, or any other cloud as well.
I'll ask a specific question because a lot of customers ask me that, let's say the blob storage or the storage account, they provide their own REST APIs for put, get, or some information. So they were asking me whether we need to put a function or we can directly import it if we just want to use the REST APIs as it is. So I just say it's the same, like it's your choice. Whether you want to use the native functionality as it is without doing any processing, then you can just import it and use it.
Exactly.
And otherwise you have to use a function.
True, exactly. It depends upon your scenario and the service which you are using. So now API management also provides us with feature of creating users. So for example, if I have a set of APIs which I have published, I have created products, I have configured the APIs, I have subscriptions. Now I want the end users to consume those APIs. So how I will deliver those APIs to the users? So in Azure API management, I have a feature of controlling the users. I can create users, or even though I can share the URL of the developer portal, which comes along with API management, I will discuss that. I can share that with the users and they can go and they can sign up, they can create their account. Once they create their account, the request goes to the administrator. Administrator can reject or approve based on the requirement. So users can have different privileges. That for that we have to group the users. We also have feature for creating groups. By default, we have 3 groups: administrator, developer, and guest. They have different level of permissions based on the role, but we can also create our own groups as well. So how users are going to access my APIs, how they are going to test. So for that, whenever I go, I create an instance of Azure API Management. API Management provides a developer portal. It's a separate portal which it has a different URL which I can share with the developers who want to consume the APIs. They can go, they can sign up, they can create their account, they can see the APIs which we have. They can even though test those APIs on the developer portal as well. Along with testing of those APIs, they can see the complete report of the API. Like for example, if I'm consuming an API, I'm testing an API, I want to see that how this API is functioning. So for that, I have ability to track the complete report of those APIs through the developer portal. And me as an administrator, I have like complete access to the developer portal. I can do a lot of customization based on the requirement. So it's not a standard template or a place where which is provisioned along with API management. I have this ability to do customization based on the project, based on the requirement. So this is what I discussed, API usage report. So whatever usage is being done by my APIs, I can track that through the developer portal. Now with API management, I can also do monitoring. I have an ability to monitor that how my APIs as an administrator, I want to see that how my APIs are performing, how the request is going to my APIs, how the response is coming back to my APIs, how what is the latency, what are the things. So I can also integrate application insights along with my Azure API management instance. So this was just a brief about all the services which we have. Now I will take you towards a hands-on lab so that I can explain you more and you can see that how things actually work on the portal. So far, do you guys have any questions? Anything? So yes, so this is my Azure portal. I will, hello, yeah. So I can search for Azure API Management from the top, or I can directly go here. I will create a new instance. I will select a subscription. Activate the subscription. Give me a second. I just need 2 minutes. I'm activating my subscription so that I can use it.
So is there any types of APIs or is it like one standard that we just say?
So there are multiple type of APIs. You can even have like open API. You can even directly connect this with an app service or with the function app or with its own OpenAI, Azure AI Foundry. So whatever kind of APIs you have, you can integrate that.
APIs type that people use?
It depends from the scenario. Like for example, when I implement Azure API management for some data and AI projects, normally they integrate function apps where they have hosted their APIs. So they don't select like an open API or a HTTP API. They directly connected with function app. Sometimes you have some OpenAI APIs, so you directly connect it with that. So I'll show you during the demo how we can do that.
I'm asking questions so the guys can
Yeah,
keep active rather than.
yeah. Yeah. I just need like 1 more minute. My subscription is being activated. Uh,
I think, Musa, like for example, when we monitor, let's say the APIM,
mhm.
so usually like there are logs and then there are insights.
Yes.
So for example, people who are not aware, like how the two will be different. Like for example, sending the data to log analytics versus having it in apps insights. Any feedback on that? What's the difference? How we can?
Can you repeat the question? I didn't.
Yeah. So logs of monitoring on APIs.
Yes.
There are multiple ways, like you can send the logs to log analytics,
Yes.
and then you can send it to apps insights.
Yes.
So what's the benefit of one versus the other? Whether we should be using both, or is it like one versus?
It depends upon your scenario. You can use log analytics. You can take the logs and you can do the monitoring from there. Application insights will give you more insights about the APIs, how the latency is, how the response is going, how the request is coming back. So you can like more depth from application insights.
Got
You can use that. But for the this is from like as an administrator, I can see. But the developers who are consuming the APIs, they have an ability to check all these things from the developer portal as well. So they can also see the complete report of the APIs. That I will also show now. If you guys can see my screen, I will create one instance of Azure API Management now. I will select the subscription resource group, and I will give it a unique name. Let me see. I can. The name has to be unique because it generates a URL when your API management is provisioned. That URL, something like this. Yeah, it works. So organization, I can select as Microsoft for now, or I can select Mohammad is coming, and I can put my email address. Now there are multiple pricing tiers. Based on your requirement, you can go for the right pricing tiers. So for this lab, I will go for the developer because I don't want to put a lot of cost. Then if I go to the next tab, I can select any application insight or log analytics. Currently, I have already done one integration, so I will be using that. For virtual network, we have different type of networking models for API management. We have an external type, and we have an internal API management networking model. In external and internal, you create your API management within a network, but when it is in internal mode, your endpoints, public endpoints like the developer portal gateways, they have public access. But the backend,
You can speak like this.
but the backend communication is still private. But when you go for internal networking models, all your endpoints are private, so nothing is kept public. I don't have a visual network for now. I'll just skip this and I'll just provision without the basic settings. This can take some time. Provisioning of API management. So I can simply go on another tab. So I already have created an instance of API management because it will take few minutes. Like it can take around 20 to 30 minutes sometimes. I will use this API management instance, which I have already provisioned. Over here, you can see when I provision Azure API management, it creates a default developer portal. So this developer portal is for the end users who want to consume my APIs. So when I configure my APIs, I do all the administrative things over here, policies, users, groups, everything, product management, subscription. That I will share this URL of the developer portal with the end user, with the developer, so that they can come, they can sign in, and they can use the APIs. As I'm logged in with an administrative account, over here, I have an option to come and do the customization of the developer portal. So I can change the user interface based on my requirements. And once I do this, I'll just publish this so that my changes should be reflected to all the customers who are using the developer portal.
What's the limitation of this customizations, this developer portal?
On this developer portal?
Yes.
Yes. So basically you can like change limitations are limited towards like changing the design, like the user interface. You can change the header, you can change the images which are at the background. This kind of customization, you can add like few more menus. So you can do this kind of customization over there.
Change that according to their design guidelines.
Yes.
Each company or
Yes. So based on that, we can do customization. We can do the customization. We can change the user interface because, as I mentioned before, it's a template which is provided by API management. But based on the project, based on the customer, based on their requirement, we can do the customization. And then once we do the customization, after that, we have to publish this so that the end user can see the changes which we have done.
This is like a CMS application inside the API management.
Yes. But created when you don't have to create it separately. As you have seen, when I created the API management, I didn't configure developer portal. I didn't create any other service. It is integrated with it. Yes.
Sign-in feature is limited with the which providers get that we can use it here. Yeah, can we use, let's say, multi-factor authentication? Can we use, let's say, Google or social?
We can go for others. Yeah.
For example, single sign-on.
Single sign-on, yeah, we can go. Even though we can, good question, we can integrate that with the APIs as well directly. Like for example, if I have an API configured at API management. If I go here, so over here I can also customize, and whatever request is going to my API to the developer portal, I can use single sign-on authentication with that. So to configure an API, we come on the API section under APIs and click add an API. Over here, you can see different type of APIs. And as I mentioned, as Shesha asked, what kind of APIs can we do? So these are the APIs, different kind of APIs which we can integrate. If you have an API hosted on app service or function app, or you have an OpenAI service, you can integrate that directly. I have configured some APIs over here. These are just like a demo APIs. I will open one of these. So once you click these APIs, you can see all the functions which are part of those APIs. So now how you can test this? So to test these APIs, you can use a Postman, you can do testing, but Azure provides you capability to test on the portal as well. So you can select any of the functions which you want to test. Click on this test and you can just simply send. Yeah, so I'm getting 200. So response, it's a simple API. If I need to do some configuration changes, I need to change the settings. I can even though do that as well. I can, if I want a subscription to be enabled, like whenever I send a request, I want my users to pass the subscription key. I can enable the subscription as well over here. To manage and to create the subscription, we can do it from here. We have some built-in subscription, but we can also create our own subscription.
Can you explain it?
Yes, so subscription, as I discussed before, like I have an API which I share with the developers. Now, someone having the URL of my Azure API management will can easily access my APIs. Now, I want to restrict the access to the APIs. I want that, okay, users should with this specific subscription key should only be able to access the subscription within for a certain period of time. I want that only, like for 1 month, I want these specific users who are part of Azure Qatar community should use this subscription. After 1 month, when my sessions will be over and we will have a break, I can change the subscription key and they won't be able to use it. So these kind of things we can do. For more control, for security, authorization, access, we can add policies. We can even though do JWT authentication. We can do a lot of stuff. Yes. So for example, you have a limited user. Like for example, if I go to users, I have a test user over here. This user is part of a group. Over here, I have limited that this user, for example, who is part of this group, should be able to access the APIs within the product. So basically, I have a set of APIs which I've added inside a product, and now I have the list of users. So I can grant access to those users on that specific product. That these users should only be able to view the APIs to which product they have access to. Now, once they go to the developer portal, they sign in, they can see the products to which they have access. They can see all the APIs within that product. And once they do the testing, once they perform a test, at that point, they need to add the subscription key. So subscription key at API setting, we can limit that which subscription is required for which API. So if you put a subscription key, a wrong subscription key, or if you put a subscription key which is not for this product, not for these API, for any other APIs, so you won't be able to send a request to those APIs.
Is it just for the authentication or is it just for like grouping? Like for example, we discussed OAuth or other type of this. So is it for authentication or is it for some other functionality that we want to still restrict or identify a particular group of users?
It is to restrict the access, direct access to the APIs. Like for example, I'm accessing the APIs. So to restrict the access, but for more authentication, proper authentication, auth authentication, we can integrate with policies. We can have policies which we can put.
Subscription and user integration all together. It's
Yes.
it's going to be like a complex scenario.
I can do this. So my API, I'll show you. I have this dummy API. It's part of a product over here, which I've given to it. I can add more products as well.
So
So this product, if I go here, so from this product, I can see that.
what
Yes.
are the use cases that you saw in your customers to use these products? A real life scenario. What are they using for those products?
So for example, I have an API management which is centralized by the customers in their, for example, in their hub, and it is being used by multiple different projects. So we have like different customers who are implementing solutions and they are sharing the same API management. So some APIs are, for example, some notification APIs, which are used, one API is used to send SMS, another API is used to send email requests. So notification APIs are being used by one customer, which we have configured at API management. So I have this set of APIs over here, which are related to some employee data, for example. For those APIs, I have grouped them into a product. Now, when I come to the product over here, I can select the group where I have the users who will be using these set of APIs. So you wanted to see the relation between the APIs, product, subscription, and these things. So APIs are grouped into a product, and to that product, I have given access to the user, to the group where I have the list of users who will be using that APIs. Over here, I have these groups.
For example, what kind of product names did you use in your customer?
Product names, it could be any, it could be like some notification, for example, a product I have for notification. It consists of all the APIs which are used to notify people, which are used to, like, some APIs are used to send SMS messages, some APIs are used to send emails. So these notification APIs, I've grouped them into a product known as notification. And that notification product has access to that group, where I have the list of people who needs notification.
So you set up a product,
Yes.
notification product,
Yes.
and then you add the APIs into that product.
Yes.
And those APIs are the ones who send the notifications.
Yes.
And then you will add the users or your consumers
Yes.
will go and subscribe to this product. Is this how it works?
Yes. Exactly.
So then the subscription came into the picture, right?
Yes.
How do you set up the relationship between the subscription and the product?
You can give it to the subscription, like over here on product, you can attach a subscription. Subscription could be attached over here at the product level, and you can assign it to like specific API. Like, for example, I want that some APIs are very restricted, and for those to call those API within this product, I need a subscription, but I don't need a subscription for the other APIs. Those, like, anyone can call, anyone can use. Those are just used for testing purpose. So for the specific API for which I want to restrict, I can just go to APIs and I can put subscription over there. But at product level, I can also do that. Did it got you, or?
So subscription and products are not. So products is for grouping. What about subscription? It looks
Subscription
like,
will-
sounds like they are similar.
No, subscription will control the access. Like, for example, you have a group of APIs, but now I want to consume those group of APIs. So for that, I need to pass a subscription key so that I can access those APIs. Okay, I have these APIs available to me, but to send a request, I need to subscribe to those APIs. For that, if I'm subscribed, I have to pass something so that it could authorize to me.
Can you show me the subscription screen?
Yeah.
So what kind of subscriptions that we can create?
I can show you here.
So out of box ones.
Yeah. So subscription, we can scope it to all APIs level. As I mentioned, we can restrict it to a certain API if you want, and we can restrict it to a product as well. So in a product, I have group of APIs. When I restrict this to a product, it will be like restricted to all the APIs within that product. But if I don't want it to at a product level, I want it only on a specific API, I can do that as well. So I have this ability to restrict the subscription to APIs or a set of APIs.
So for example, you can give a name as a subscription, let's say notification subscription.
Yes.
and then you can choose the notification product.
Yes, yes.
This subscription will be
Implemented for the product's notification product. I can do it from here, and I can also create a product like a subscription. And if I go to the products, I can also select the subscription from there as well. So from both the
this
places. I can-
subscription will have the primary and secondary key, which the consumers needs to use it in order to
authenticate to represent as well. Yes.
yes. to fetch those data from
Yes.
APIs.
Exactly.
Is that clear for everyone?
The subscription will be associated to a particular group or a particular user.
It can be restricted to the users. You can mention the users as well. If you mention over here, you can also select the users which are coming. So for example, if this user want to access this certain API, scope I can define for the subscription at this API level, single API level, or to the group of API levels. So if I restrict it to a group of API level, like to a product, then all the subscription with all the APIs within that product needs that subscription whenever I'm sending the request. So for example, if I have a notification product, I restrict it to the notification product. So whenever I'm calling any SMS API or email API within that product, I need to pass the subscription.
Sorry if you are asking too many questions, but it will clarify over one and also the other one. So consider a lot of time we do system to system communication.
Yes.
Okay, so consider you have exposed APIs through APIM and I have another front end which is consuming this.
Yeah.
So we do like that system authenticates to it like using MSI or something, or it's still requiring?
You can authenticate if you are requiring a key, a subscription key, you can use that.
No, but I'm just saying that to avoid this, right? I already have a front end which is in Azure and which is a trusted service.
Yes.
I've already assigned an identity to it.
Yes.
Can I authenticate that this identity is allowed to access this? So can I define that, for example, let's say my app service, which has identity ABC,
Okay. On the
that
front end,
it should be authorized to this one without like using the keys or any other mechanism, because I want to use it to identity within Azure directly.
yes, you can do that. Like you can directly authenticate that. Like you're without the subscription key, your front end, you have an application which is called in the backend API, so API management. So without the subscription key, they can directly hit that. But over there,
But do we need to define here that, for example, this managed identity has this role to access these APIs? Because we haven't seen anything like MSIs or anything like that for this application. So it's just like saying that subscription key is not for a system to system level communication.
no, it is only for like the subscription key is only for the API and for the product, not for the system to system. Like in case if you want like as per your requirement, without a subscription key, they can communicate.
And yeah, again, this related question,
Yes.
these users,
Yes.
right? This user represent us a real entity, right? Not another system.
So this user is like a user like which I have created under the user section.
Okay.
It is the user.
Or let's say the one user goes into your developer portal
Yes.
and create an account,
Yes.
and then it will come to your management portal
User.
and you will
Yes.
approve it. When you approve it, this user will be active. So this user then will go to subscriptions and subscribe itself to a subscriptions,
Yes.
right? Then as an admin, you can approve or reject it,
Yes.
correct? Then according to your approval, he will have rights to access a set of products.
Yes.
And inside those products, there will be some APIs.
Yeah.
Right. So this user will use those subscription, where he will see those subscription keys in the developer portal. Is he able to see these subscription keys?
Subscription key we can share with the users. Like if they want to access the subscription, like while hitting the request, so they can like we can share the subscription key with them, and they can like when they are hitting the request, like from the developer portal, they can put the subscription key over there.
So they can see the subscription keys in the portal, also developer.
Not in the portal exactly, I think, but from like we need to share those subscription key. They cannot see as per my understanding, but I can double check that.
Okay.
Can I ask some questions?
Yes.
I'm totally not stalling for the pizza. Musa, let me ask you something basic. Like how would it look like if APIM wasn't there?
API was not.
Like why do I really need it?
The reason we need API management is to like say, as you have seen, we have I haven't discussed about the policies right now, which I can show you now. So now with the help of API management, we have more controls on the backend API. Now, for example, I have a set of API over here. I have defined some policies for these APIs over here. I want some, for example, to call this API.
And when you just say policies, like, what do you mean by that?
Policies are a set of configurations, some instructions which I want to configure on my API management. Instead of doing the code level changes, now I can do a lot of things through the policies which I have configured over here. Like for example, if I want to perform any kind of authentication, I want to do some kind of rate limiting. I want that only 10 calls should be sent to my API in 1 minute. So these kind of things, I can just with one line of policy, I can do that. My API is sending a response back to my user once it has performed some operations. And I want some, it should add some custom headers within that. So I can also do that over here. I can add a policy. I can do the changes. Policies could be anything. It could be like IP filtering. I want like certain IP addresses or certain set of address ranges should be able to access my APIs. So instead of like doing the things at the code level or managing, I can do everything from here. Now, after doing this, I have a capability to go on developer portal and I can publish that so that my users can directly come over there and they can do and they can test, they can see the report, the usage, everything from there.
So it's more about like having this central place to control the policies.
Yeah, to control and to manage all the operations which are being performed on your APIs.
Do I always need an APIM? Like what would be my decision matrix for like?
It depends from scenario to scenario. Like if for sometimes if you are you want to perform certain operations, you want publishing your APIs, you want to keep them secure, like you want to control the traffic which is following to your APIs, you want to change the request which is going back, coming from the user, going back to the backend APIs. So at that point, you can have as API management as the middle layer between your user and between your backend APIs.
I'm asking, does anyone have more questions? I'm just asking questions just to, I have one more question.
Yeah.
Let's say, oh, you, go. I didn't see your hand, go.
Yeah. So middleware? Yeah, exactly. So you can consider this as a middleware between your backend APIs and your application or your end user, which are consuming the APIs.
Suppose I have like a backend and it's kind of not working as it's supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
Does it have a queuing mechanism? Like it takes in the request, queues those, and then sends the response back to the consumers?
Like what do you mean? Like if
So,
you have
so I have a backend,
yes,
I've hosted all the APIs there. It's not performing well.
Okay.
But the consumers they want the response quickly.
Yes.
So does it queue those requests?
Yes, for that you can see when you do the monitoring capability, you can see that why your request, because obviously when your request is passing through the gateway in API management, so through monitoring you can see that what are the requests which are being failed. So it can tell you that your backend is unhealthy or your backend is failing. All the requests going to your backend are not being processed. Could be certain reasons. You can get the report.
But we cannot queue it. We cannot queue the request to our backend through the.
No. It will just tell you that, okay, these are the things. You can, yeah, if you write a custom policy, you do some customization that, okay, what are the requests coming and what are failing, just send it back to your backend API or you can store it somewhere.
It will not queue. It will not queue there again. If you are saying that, okay, for wait, you have to have the retry logic in your own area. There can be like, I think the retry logic, I don't know if there's a policy to retry. If let's say something fails.
Something fails, yeah. You can.
So there is, Musa, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is one policy as we are mostly using. There is let's say you have one API which is costing a lot on like a high computer, and one is like on a smaller computer. What you can do is when a lot of requests are coming to the ones which is more expensive, after sub throttle, you just say, okay, now the rest of the user, you should go to the cheaper computer. So you can put a policy
yes,
that just say that when this is throttling, just go divert to the other one. It can load balance as well. Like if you have other regions, so these are some of the policies in there. But if you want to queue it, I think it's like, well, queue can also be retry logic, right? That you have, you receive an error and then you just like fall back. First try with 1 second, if not, after 2 seconds, then 4 seconds, then 8 seconds. But it's based on the application, the system will not do it automatically, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And does it, just one more question.
Yeah.
Does it support different technologies? So my backend is built on like REST API, and the consumer is they're only able to consume so.
Yeah, whatever the technology is, whatever it's not specific to limited to any one technology.
So it's a cross technology we can communicate.
Yes, like for example, your application is you have a set of APIs which is developed, like for example, on Node.js or something in one technology, and you have published those APIs on API management. You have another system which is developed on a different technology, and you are calling that system is calling these APIs. So if this API is configured at API management, it will directly hit the request to your API management. You have to pass the parameter like the body and the header, the subscription key, and then it can take the response. It will work.
But I think the question might be a bit different. Please correct me. If you go to the APIs, the APIs type that I was asking previously, like there is REST APIs call, right, which doesn't retain a state. You just call it and you just receive it. The other thing can be socket, right? Like when the socket is open, you just like communicate the channel. You don't authenticate. So you have to decide which type of APIs you want to use. The backend system can be anything. Let's say you have Oracle, SQL Server, because a lot of time it's databases, right? Where you just like do CRUD operations or some other logic where you just store that information. So you can define the APIs, what type of APIs you want to expose to the consumer, and that type you can, I think, define it.
Okay, yeah, that you can do. That what I explained initially. So whatever kind of APIs you have, you can. It's like it's not restricted to like any certain kind of APIs.
Very question. So, as a backend developer myself, so correct me if I'm wrong, that I build my API, let's say on Visual Code, and my API is on Django. Let's say it's mainly written in Python.
Okay.
So, what if I want to use this feature? Firstly, I deploy my API in some hosting server, and then I give that URL to API management.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm.
Yeah.
So, okay, now there are things that from my developer's perspective, I say that I can limit the amount of users. So by using this, I don't have to code that in my
Inside your API. Yeah.
So the next question is about the authentication, right? So we use JWT off and on, and we do that by manually coding that. So does this support JWT as well?
Yes, it supports. So you can write a policy for such a certain kind of authentication.
Right.
You have an auth authentication or JWT authentication, and you can configure that on that API.
So whatever security or authentication perspective is concerned with my API, that term is called policy here.
Policy is not only related to the security policy. For example, if I'm getting a certain response like into a JSON, I want to convert it into XML. When the request is going back to my API, to my backend API, I can create a policy for that. As I was showing you, I have a policy over here which I have configured for this API. It is for rate limiting. So it is what this policy is doing. This policy is just controlling the calls to like in 15 seconds, only 3 calls can be made to my APIs. If I make more calls within 15 seconds, this policy will tell me, okay, to wait for a certain period of time, and then I can request again. So policy, yeah, for security, we have security policies. You can like get a whole snippet of policies over here from here, which you can integrate. And if you go over here, let me show you. An add policy, you can directly add a policy from here as well. So different kind of policy for caching, for JWT, as you mentioned, and you click on the policy, you can come here, you can manually add it. You can use Copilot as well. And how I was writing the policies is like I integrated my Azure API management. I connected with my Visual Studio. I think my screen is not shared. Let me share it again. Over here. So over here, I have my API management connected with my Visual Studio. I have all my instances of API management.
Can you zoom in?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you see it now?
More. Yes. We are old.
Okay, so from here, if I come here, I can see all the API management instances which I have within my subscription. If I go to any one of these operation, I can see the APIs which I have, list of APIs I can see from here. This is the Eco API, which is a test API which comes when we create an API management instance. Other I have configured. These are just dummy APIs. I can see the policies. So these are the policies which I was checking from the Azure portal, which I have.
Again, maybe because I missed it. Why did you come to VS Code? Like, why did you leave the portal and come here?
Yeah, okay. So to Visual Studio Code, like for example, my main objective was to do customization on policies. Like sometimes when we are writing a lot of policies and when we have multiple people working on API management, doing some customization on policies, so we can use like from our own environment. From here, we can directly push it to the API management, but we can also use DevOps or GitHub repositories to maintain all our policies, which we can directly then push to all the API management instances which we have in different environments, which is also like known as API ops things. So from here, Visual Studio, I can easily do, and I can do the configuration. I can do the customization as per my requirement. And I can also use Copilot. So for example, if I need to write API over here, second. Oh, yeah, once again. For example, I need to write an API. I'll come over here and I'll ask the Copilot that I want to limit requests to 100 calls in 1 minute. It's a very basic one, but you can add more customization on it.
Team do ask questions, right? Like we are asking questions probably just to make sure that you guys are asking question as well. Feel free. There is no right and wrong question, so just
Like we work at Microsoft and we're learning stuff as well. So just feel free to ask if it's even you think it's a basic question. Better to leave away learning something than like have a doubt in your mind.
Speaking about Microsoft pricing.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that. Like, how do you decide which tier you want to go with? Do you have like best practices and so on?
Yes, so there are multiple tiers. When we were provisioning the API management, I can show you again. So this instance has been provisioned. I can show you again. I can show you the tiers which we have for API management.
So while you're opening this, there is a lot of like when we add hubs in the solution, is that adding any latency? The system, what's your experience? Is it adding any latency when we add the API between the different systems? Or how much latency is added between?
Little bit of latency is added because obviously now whenever previously when developers used to access APIs, they were directly hitting the request to the backend API, like for them to a function app. But now because I have an API management layer in between that, and whenever I'm sending the request to the backend API, it is passing through the API management. At API management, the gateway is checking the policies. And after the policy, it might change the syntax, it might apply any authentication, any kind of IP filtering. And then so there is a very small latency when the request is going back to the backend APIs. So these are the different tiers. I hope it answer your question. Yeah. So these are different tiers for Azure API management. Normally, whenever we implement solutions for the customers over here, so we go for the developer tier and we in the dev and staging environment, but for the production environment, we go for the premium tier. Now, why we select these two tiers, one of the main reason is that these two tiers, they support virtual network integration. So for example, when I'm deploying an API management instance for a customer in Qatar, customer don't want the API management to be public. So these API management instances, they are totally public for now, just for a lab. But when I have to do an actual deployment, I cannot keep these APIs public. I have to deploy them like within a certain kind of virtual network. So over here, if I go to the networking of API management, I have different networking options over here. While creating, I can also select it from here. So I need to create this within a virtual network so that whatever traffic is coming to my API management should pass through the firewall, should pass through an application gateway, and then it should come and hit to the API.
Basic standard does not support the network, the virtual network?
No. It is supported with developers and with premium tiers. with these two tiers, with the developer and with the premium.
I have one question, and then I think you need to ask them question.
Yeah.
So my question is, let's say I'm an AI developer and I wanna. You mentioned about monetization and like how this could help, right? Am I right? Well,
Sorry, for AI.
Let's say I built my own LLM and I want to expose it to people through APIs.
Yes.
And I created the APIs and I want to use APIM as well.
Yeah.
To help with monetization or something, because there was a mention of that. Is this something I can use to help with that?
Yes. So
How-
as I was showing it before, and as some of you asked that what kind of APIs are supported. So these are the type of APIs which are supported, and for some of the Azure services, like if I have an application deployed an app service or function app, or if I'm using Azure OpenAI, you have some APIs over here, or Azure AI Foundry, we can directly connect that over here instead of like going and putting the URL.
So for example, let's say okay, I created my APIs and I want people to use it.
Yes.
And then can I use APIM to help me manage the cost, and it'd be like the central hub, my API requests come in and then I can see how much I'm making from APIs.
Yes.
Is it
You
something I can
can manage that. You can manage that. You can get the complete reports that how your APIs are being managed. Whatever your request is going to backend APIs, how they are performing, how is the usage, everything you can get the report for that.
Or you can ask them questions. Oh, you have one more question?
Yeah, please.
Before I ask a question, my background is not technology, financial.
Yeah.
So my understanding from this API management is this will be used if I would like to share my APIs to let some people outside of my organization, for example, to connect it to my solution.
Yes.
This is
Not only outside your organization, it could be used within your organization as well. Like within your organization, if you want, I have, for example, within my company, I have created some APIs which I use to mark the attendance of my employees, or to do something related to. I have an API which is transferring the salaries to all the employees which are in the companies. It is performing some billings, any kind of things. So for those APIs are only being used by the account team which is in my company. So for that, I don't want that all the team members in different team, the HR team and other teams should be able to consume my APIs. For HR team, I have different set of APIs. For account team, I have a different set of APIs. Similarly, for technical team, I might have some other set of APIs which they are using for their task. So this is for my internal team. I can group different APIs, different products I can have, which I can publish to the dedicated team as well. Within my organization, it's not like only for outside your organization. It could be within your organization as well.
Okay, in my company, so as we offer CFO services, for example, for SMEs, we have multiple clients,
Yes.
corporate clients. But each client, for example, if I have a restaurant client, for example, and we are using Microsoft Dynamics,
Yes.
for example, so we would like to connect their POS system, which was recording the orders, in order to integrate directly with Dynamics using API. Does it have to do anything with API management?
It depends what kind of like control do you want, that whenever your request from Dynamics to your other system is being sent, it depends from scenario to scenario, that where, like what value API management is giving you in your scenario. If you want to utilize the capabilities of API management, if you want that all the traffic going to your other system should be like passed through API management, but you need to like define like what are the values which you have to take out from API management. You want like some authentication, you want more security, or you want to like see like how the request is going to your APIs, how it is coming back, the response is coming back. If you want these kind of customization, only like then it's like totally based upon your scenarios.
Okay, my last question. Sorry, I have. We are building an AI agent.
Yeah.
This AI agent, its main purpose is to read the financial information from Dynamics and give feedback and start to interact with the user. So, but will be used for internal use. But what if I would like to monetize this one and make it available for external users who are using different solutions? So I'm using Dynamics, another client, for example, is using QuickBooks or any other solution. So I would like to monetize this one and start selling it.
Okay.
So I would like to be able to connect this AI agent with other external solutions.
Is your AI agent being exposed or being consumed by any API? Like if I want to consume any service from your agent, am I calling any APIs, something like that?
So I'm not sure how it will be connected, but yeah,
If it,
I told you I'm not a tech.
if I want to connect to your AI agent and the call which I'm making to an AI agent is being done through any API. So that API I can configure that API management, and you can restrict that. Okay, whatever request is going to my agent should pass through a certain authentication.
So API management here, I think it's just for management. But if I need to create the API, so not from here, I think.
You want to create APIs, you can create them and you can deploy them. API management will not be used for hosting your API. As I mentioned in the initial architecture diagram, there was a function app which was hosting your API.
Okay.
So your API is hosted over there. It could be a function app or an app service or any other hosting service. It's not a hosting service. It is not used for hosting your APIs.
Okay.
It's a layer between your and APIs and the user.
Thank you.
And you could use the monetization part, as he was mentioning, you could use like you can integrate API app with payment platforms like Stripe to enable people like to pay for your API and
Yeah.
and there's like you can find documentation around that. So let's skip to the questions part.
Yes.
Ask them 3 questions and then we asked you a lot of questions now too.
Okay, so
We will not give a complaint on your already. Right?
I think that's what's to you.